Okay, good day. Welcome to a tutorial on Python programming language. Right. To get started, we'll first need to highlight that Python is a very popular programming language, a very popular high-level programming language. Meaning to say that it's closer to human understandable as compared to what a machine can understand, right? You see Python being used in web development, in machine learning applications, and even in the designing of some cutting-edge technology in the software development industry, right? Python is currently the most widely used multi-purpose high-level programming language, right? And it allows object-oriented programming, just like Java. And Python programs are generally smaller than other programming languages, right? You see that the same code that you write with Python is going to be having some fewer lines of code as compared to the same program being written in another language. Let's to compare with Java, right? Python is actually being used by some tech giant companies that are out there, including Google, Amazon, Facebook, Instagram, Dropbox, even Uber, right? And the biggest strength of Python lies on its huge collection of standard libraries, which can be used in the following areas, like in machine learning. You see again Python's libraries being used in graphical user interface applications, in web frameworks like Django, which is currently being used by YouTube, Instagram, and even Dropbox. And a huge collection of libraries, again being used in scientific computing, right, to speed up the scientific computing process, right? So to get started with Python, first thing that you need is an interpreter, right? As I mentioned prior on that Python is a high-level programming language, meaning to say that it is closely understood by the humans than by the computer, which means we will need to convert the Python code into machine code for it to be understood and to be interpreted, to be handled by the computer, right? If you're using Windows, there are many interpreters available freely to run Python scripts, like the IDE, the IDLE, the Integrated Development Environment, that comes bundled with Python software downloaded from python.org, right? If you go on python.org, you can just select the version of Python that you want. The latest being Python 3 currently. You can just download it and it comes along with an IDE that you can use as your interpreter. If you're using Ubuntu or any Linux distros, you'll see that it comes in with Python 3 currently pre-installed in it. If you're using Mac OS, you see probably you might have Python version 2. And if you want Python version 3, you can always go on python.org to get the latest version of Python that you might want to use, right? If you don't want to download any Python software, you can always use some online interpreters for the sake of probably learning the language on its own, right? Or for the sake of tutorials. So for our sake, for our session, we're going to be using Programzy interpreter, right? But you can always use the ones probably that are being offered by Geeks for Geeks. I know W3 Schools even offers some, We have ID1, or even the one that is being offered by Codepad. You can always visit those. Right? Now that we have our interpreter that is going to interpret our code, let's go ahead and write our first print statement with Python, and probably capture some input with Python and print it out. Right? So we just type in let's go ahead and type in our Programzy. Just use the link that is on the slide, like programzy.com. We go on Python programming and online compiler. Right? With Python, if you want to display some input, we just use our print statement. So for us, okay, the layout of Programzy is like you have your main.py on the left hand side, then you have your shell on the right hand side. Right? So if you want to write your code, you're going to be writing it on the main.py, and that code is going to be what? It's going to be displayed on the shell when you run it. Right? So if you want to display probably hello world, it's just as simple as print, and in quotes, since it's a string, print hello world, like so, and you're done. Right? And we are seeing our code is working just fine. You see that to do this in Java, probably you might need 4 or 5 lines of code, but in Python it's just one statement: print hello world, and our output is just showing off. That's the beauty of Python. It's very small. You write fewer lines of code to present the output that you could have used quite a number of lines of code in another programming language. Right? If you want to capture input with Python, it's as simple as just typing the name of the variable that you want to store the input, and you use the input keyword to capture the input. Right? Let's just have this like please enter your name. Please enter your name, like so. Then after capturing the name, probably we might want to print a hello message with it, like print hello. Then we attach the name to that, the name that you would have captured. Right? And if you run that, we're going to be seeing our first prompt like expected. Please enter your name. It's Taco. And if we press enter to that, we are now seeing that we are now having our hello message coupled in with the name that we have entered. So that's us getting started with Python. Right? How simple! Look how simple it is. Just it just seems as if we're just writing some English statements. Right? And it doesn't seem like I'm coding, but rather yes, I am actually coding. Right? We have captured our input, our name, and we stored it in our name variable, and we are printing it out coupled with our hello message there. Okay, that's us getting started with Python. Right? We have seen how to print out our first statement, and we have written a small piece of code to take the user's name and to store it in a variable, and then display a hello message coupled in with the name. Right? That's the line of code that we just used. So in conclusion, we can say that Python is one of the most emerging programming languages. It is a high-level programming language that has user-friendly syntax, as we have just seen, and it is known to have fewer lines of code in an easy and simple form. Yeah, that's basically it with Python. That's our introduction. We'll meet again in the next tutorial. Thank you.